Action News is committed to keeping you informed about the candidates and issues on the November ballot.
Well, tonight we take a closer look at Michigan's 8th congressional district.
We sent Stephen Clark to profile incumbent Republican Congressman Mike Rogers, and Stephen found out despite being in that office a dozen years, Rogers isn't taking anything for granted.
Well, when you win by 88 votes, your first election to run for Congress, I treat every election like every vote matters. So, you know, this is about a lot of blocking and tackling, continue to let people know who we are, introduce myself to the new portion of my district after redistricting, and we've been getting favorable response. So we feel fairly confident going in the next few weeks that we're going to be okay.
Mike Rogers has served the 8th district for a dozen years, but it's not the same district this year. When Michigan lost a seat, new lines were drawn. Rogers lost the agricultural areas of Clinton and Shiawassee County, and he picked up Rochester, Rochester Hills, and Oakland Township. Rogers tells me a new district won't make a difference in the way he does business. Now, looking back over the last couple of years of Congressman Rogers' record, I noticed a couple things that stand out. One is that you've pretty much stayed out of the partisan fray. I rarely ever find you weighing in on some of these increasingly partisan battles we've been finding ourselves in over the last few years.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I ran for office was, certainly I have my principles and the philosophies that, you know, make me a Republican and make me want to go there and pass legislation. But at the end of the day, it is to do something. And I found that the best way to do that is to try to build consensus on areas where you can agree to get something done. And even in this partisan environment, I have 6 bills that have passed in a bipartisan way, both the House and the Senate, and have been signed by this president in this Congress. 2 other bills have passed in a bipartisan way out of the House and are awaiting action in the Senate. And I argue, you know, we can have those fights. I can have partisan differences with my colleagues in the House and the Senate. But at the end of the day, people out here have lost their jobs. Their gas prices have doubled. Food prices are up. We have 23 million Americans out of work. 360,000 people just gave up looking for work, took themselves out of the unemployment picture by just giving up. Those are the real issues that matter. And so I have found that even in that partisan environment, if you sit down, find the things that you have in common, take a few wins, take a few lumps, you can move pieces of legislation that will actually benefit people's lives.
Another notable fact about this former Army officer and FBI agent, he's quietly become one of the most powerful congressmen in Washington.
When I became chairman of the Intelligence Committee, that allows me to participate in the national security discussion. And by virtue of that committee, where all of the issues, both civilian and military, when it comes to the intelligence business, come through that committee. And it's odd because you have the highest clearances that the government has. In some ways, you are operationally checking off, so you're that check and balance to the executive branch when they want to do very sensitive, very compartmentalized covert action items. And so, yeah, it has put me in the forefront of all of those discussions. It has put me in the forefront of national security issues, and in some ways has allowed me to step up as the leading national security Republican in the United States Congress.
And what you're saying in a humble way is you're an extremely powerful congressman, and you're from Michigan.
Well, you know, as long as we're getting things done, if that's the definition of powerful, I'll let other people make that determination. But it allows me to have a tremendous impact in the House of Representatives and a tremendous impact on the national security discussions that happen there.
So it's great to be, you know, Mr. Head of National Security, but are you helping people at home?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So the good news is that when I became chairman, I didn't have to give up my position on energy and commerce. And those are the bread and butter issues that impact people in everyday lives. Gas prices, health care. I serve on the health care subcommittee. So I've spent a lot of time, and as a matter of fact, you know, almost half of the bills that I have gotten passed in a bipartisan way have to do with health care issues.
We're going to punish the 85% of Americans who have earned health care benefits as a part of their employment. And we're going to punish them and the employers who give it to them to try to cover the 15% that don't have it.
During the debate on what came to be known as Obamacare, Rogers inadvertently became a spokesman for the opposition, largely on the strength of this YouTube video and its nearly 8 million hits. He hopes this election gets that kind of attention.
I just hope people show up and vote. I do think this is probably the most important election of our lifetime. America's in a bit of an identity crisis. So we have all of the pressure of all of the bad parts of this economy. We have lots of uncertainty and a real chance to change directions here. And I think this is the election where we do that, where we say this is the America for the last 230-some years that believes in personal responsibility and believes in economic freedom. I will get to make those choices, and I shouldn't have to depend on the government to make those choices.